myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. And Liam Kennedy was with us before we came on air, but now he's disappeared. And believe it or not, he had fantastic internet reception. So here he comes now. He probably looks like some kind of weird character. Oh, no, he doesn't. There he is. Where have you been?
Jinx that, you know. Nobody else knows what Steve literally said to me 10 seconds.
I've just told them. I've just... As a filler, I've just said you actually had great internet connection, and then as soon as I come on the screen, you've gone.
I'm sorry. It's a nightmare.
Right. Sun's gone yet. And you were on time tonight as well. In fact, you were early. You were early in the green room. So I think it's the lads from Loaded TV. You've got you in a good frame of mind. That I seen you moonlighting, Liam. I seen you moonlighting, but I don't mind. Good show that. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was brilliant. Really, really good. Slick show they've got, isn't it? And it's just good to see. You know? Yeah, really good crack. What a good laugh, to be honest. We had a daft quiz and all that kind of thing, and it was really, really enjoyable, to be honest.
It's actually I've been on it as well as a guest, which is good. But it's actually one of those podcasts where I actually get on with the people.
Yeah, no, well, I'm not getting involved. I'm not going into that.
No comment. As always, plenty to talk about. Newcastle United, the possible takeover, and Euro 2020, #2021. But as always, this is your show in the chat. You get a chance to ask Liam and me questions. And Stu Taylor's come straight in with, Liam, will youth ever be given a chance under our current manager?
Good question, Stuart. I suppose you're referring to the likes of Matty Longstaff, Elliot Anderson and others. One caveat I would say to this is youth's got to be there and it's got to be good enough. That isn't always the case. Just because they come through the academy doesn't mean that they're necessarily good enough. I think we've seen a lot of people on this show even have said, what about Yannick Touré? What about Fran Salette? What about this kind of thing? And I think it's been proven the fact that I said players like that aren't always good enough despite looking like they might be. And the youth has to be there. Matty Longstaff is one bad example of the way to treat young players at a football club. He should have been looked after much better. And I'm just really hoping that they're learning lessons from that and won't make the same mistakes with Elliot Anderson, who arguably, in my opinion, is a more talented player than Matty and Sean put together, to be honest. I think he's got all the tools to be a really decent player at a decent level. And I just hope that Newcastle United treat him correctly. Look back over years and think, could Newcastle United have done better on the likes of, and it's a really topical topic of conversation at the moment, Adam Armstrong or Ivan Toney, who was signed, of course, but was involved in the under-23s. Could Newcastle United have done better? I would argue that those players, if they'd stayed at Newcastle United, wouldn't be at the level that they're at now. They had to go away and become men and play men's football and do it that way. And it just wasn't going to happen. They wouldn't have got the same development and opportunities at Newcastle United. But Newcastle United need to find a way, like a pathway to the first team. They need to make sure that they're looking after these players. And Elliot Anderson really falls into that category. And I think he will get an opportunity. If you're good enough, you will get an opportunity. But Matty Longstaff's another one that's intriguing this summer. Is he a player who's going to stay for a start? And I don't just mean a transfer away. I mean, could he be loaned out? Is he a player that's going to get an opportunity in the first team? I think he's ready. But I'm not seeing him every day on the training pitch and the coaches that there are. And they obviously didn't think he was ready last season. But it is a really interesting question. Will youth get a chance? There isn't a big, long queue at Newcastle United of players ready knocking on the door. But as we've seen last season, Elliot Anderson emerged as one who is knocking on the door. You'll normally find it every season. There might be one, there might be two if you're lucky. And I just want to see those lads who have got half a chance put out on loan. I want to see Elliot Anderson go out on loan. I want to see him go and make mistakes. I want to see him go and I mean that in the nicest possible way. You've got to make mistakes to improve. He's got to go out there and learn the game, learn the men's game, because I've argued this for a long time, but 23s football is no training ground for footballers. It just isn't. Anybody who's, and it's hard in these COVID times, of course, but anybody who can remember back to 23s games they might have been at in the past, it's not men's football. It's a million miles away from men's football. and a lot of the lads in those teams are making up the numbers. And you won't even see them in non-league football in 2 or 3 years' time. It's a largely pointless exercise, 23s football. But what you're doing is you're filling out teams, so maybe 1 or 2 might get an opportunity. I just want to see lads like that go out. I think Freddie Woodman's an example of where he lost 2 years of his career. He lost 2 years of his career, and we're now talking about a 24-year-old lad, not a 22-year-old lad. And that's the thing. It's the mistake they're making again with Matty, and they've got to make sure that this time they've got to learn the lesson, not do the same with Elliot Anderson.
Yeah, well, a comprehensive answer to that question, and plenty of questions coming in tonight. And as always, over the summer, we are introducing this new thing on the show, Monday to Thursday. So we have got a Facebook group which is grown by the day, and plenty of topics on there, and close to 6,000 members now. So search NUFC Matters on Facebook. It is a public group, so get yourself on, send your invites. And we put a poll on there Monday to Thursday now. The one I put up this morning was, will the NUFC takeover go through before the start of the season? At the moment, top of the pile with 140 votes is no. Second place, yes, with 84 votes, and don't know, 2 votes. You can add your own options on Facebook. Andrew Cadman's put, what comes first, COVID away or takeover? So 1 vote for that as well. And Holly's also put her own on today. She's on there as part of the admin team. She's put, it's rumoured that the asking price for Joe Willick is 30 million. Do you think the Arsenal youngster is worth it? 144 have said yes. 20 have said no. 19 have just said get him, which was added by Brian Hall. So plenty debate on there. Get yourself on. Just add yourself to the NUFC Matters Facebook group, and plenty of like-minded chat on there as well. So interesting numbers there, though, Liam, before I come to the next question. You know, I think the takeover one's rather predictable because people have got takeover fatigue, I think, after, over a year of this going on. But the Joe Willick one as well, no surprise there. A lot of people want to see him come, and they don't think the 30 million is too much for him.
Well, the law of averages would suggest on the takeover one that most people are right. I mean, look, we thought it might have gone through last March, April, May, June, July. Now we're a year down the line. I think the law of averages suggests, will it go through before the start of the season? Possibly not. There are possibilities that it could, of course, but I think you're probably not far off being safe if you say no. And that's not me. I explained this last night on another podcast that was on, the Loaded HQ lads, and I get this question quite a lot. People say, Liam, you sound less confident, or you sound negative towards a takeover. I'm not. I'm just being real. It's a realism, to be honest, that I'm never again will I predict a date. Never again will I say I have confidence in this deal. But that doesn't mean that I'm not hopeful, and doesn't mean that I'm not positive about it. It just means that I've added a dose of realism to something that was. It took a lot of energy out of a lot of people, and it has over the last year. But that doesn't mean I don't think it will go through. I think eventually it will go through. I couldn't tell you when, though.
It's difficult to sound positive when you've got a melted face like that, though, isn't it, really? I presume you watched the Fab Four, or you caught up with it and saw some of the lookalikes that got sent your way?
I've seen them, and I like them. They certainly made me chuckle over the last 7 years.
You definitely look like the Roblox character. I think that was the best one. Like, there's an absolute bellers. If you haven't seen it, by the way, get yourself onto the Fab Four show from Friday night. Absolutely brilliant. You guys out there who come up with these lookalikes are absolutely hilarious. But the ones of Liam, which were circulating, were superb. Tom Dixon says, Premier League fixtures are released tomorrow morning. What are you fancying first game of the season? A home game or an away game? I'm fancying away, and I think we'll have Leeds away.
I'm saying it's going to be something like Tottenham at home. It always just seems to be that over the last few years. So I'm thinking probably something like that. And I'm hoping, to be honest, for a home game. Because it looks like, I've mentioned it on the show a couple of times, it looks like I'm probably going to get in with the conversations that I've had the last couple of weeks. They're going to allow more than one per organisation in. So So I'm desperate to get back to St James's Park and start covering games. So I'm hoping for a home game, to be honest. I just want to quickly go back to that other question, the Joe Willock one, because I think it's quite a key thing at the moment. There is a possibility that Joe Willock could still end up in Newcastle this summer, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people have already written it off in their heads. But what I would say about it, is he worth 30 million? Probably is. Do I believe that the Joe Willock we're seeing at the end of last season is Joe Willock playing at his absolute maximum? Yes. And would it be fair to expect that kind of ratio of goals to games if we sign him next season? No, ridiculously unfair. If Joe Willock comes in and has the same 1 and 2, sort of 1 goal every 2 games, which is what he averaged, a little bit higher than that actually at Newcastle United, he got 8 and 14. We're talking about a lad who's going to net more than 25 goals in the Premier League from midfield next season. It ain't happening. So I think there's got to be a little bit of expectation level in here that he isn't going to come in and score. If he gets 8 goals in a season from midfield, he's done really well. It's just so happens that he rode the crest of a wave at the end of last season. But do I think he's a type of player Newcastle should be signing? I think he fits the profile perfectly. I've got a story coming out tomorrow. I'm not going to spoil it too much. Talking about the profile, the mindset of Newcastle United's transfer policy this summer. It may come as a surprise to some. It won't come as a surprise to many. But I'll just urge you to sort of have a little look around. I think it goes up on the web 5-6 a.m. tomorrow. So just check it out. Check it out. But there is a little clue in there as to how things might move forward. And that's one of the reasons why I don't believe if Joe Willock is available for transfer. And that's still an if. I do believe he will become available. But if he becomes available, then I think Newcastle United will be part of that conversation.
Okay. Tom Lynch asking what you want to see for the first game, the last game, Boxing Day and New Year's Day.
Boxing Day, home game. Just with having a young family, I don't want to have to be travelling anywhere. Boxing Day, New Year's Day, could be anybody. It tends to be in a way. It's been in a way, I think, the last few years. First game, anybody at home. I honestly don't mind. It'd be nice to think that they get a decent little run to get off to a good start and just continue the riding the crest that wave that the whole club was towards the back end of last season. To get a nice, easy on the eye first 5 games, just to get some wins under the belt, and then maybe just build up that little bit of a cushion and not be worrying next season like we were through the winter months last year.
Okay, Davey says, we still don't have the new strip or ticket info. Is it being held back for the takeover, or is it just the usual shambles?
Look, it's not being held back for the takeover. So there's your answer on that one. But it's not for the want to try, and there are people at that football club who want to get these details out. But the politics of Newcastle United dictates when these things come out, and I'll agree with you that it is a bit of an embarrassment that Newcastle United haven't put accounts out. They haven't put. We don't even know who's going to make a kit next season. There hasn't been a retained list. Possibly one of the only clubs in the Premier League not to have put a retained list out. There's a number of different things and issues that all remain up in the air at Newcastle United at the moment, and they are things that will drip feed, I would imagine, in the next few weeks. I imagine we'll definitely have some kind of retained list by within the next fortnight, but that's pushing it because people will be walking out of deals on the 30th. And again, not to be a self-promoter, but there is some hints as to what's probably going to happen in the transfer piece that I've written tomorrow. So keep your eyes out, keep your eyes peeled for that one. Any
news on the Castoria deal? Asks Mark.
No, I don't. I think it's something that will happen. When it happens again, like I say, the wheels are turning very, very, very slowly at Newcastle United this summer. Slower this summer than I've ever known them in my time, even though it's only been a few years. But it is a very slow summer, and I don't anticipate things will speed up anytime soon either. But that's not necessarily takeover related. So everybody reading into this, that, and the other, if it's takeover related in any way, it's because of the fact that Mike Ashley is less interested in Newcastle United matters this summer than probably ever has been. Even though he was less interested last summer than ever before, and it's probably gone again this summer. It's breaking that record. We know, and you've talked about it here, Steve, haven't we, that that last May Mike Ashley was walking around telling business associates and anybody asking about the deal that it wasn't his club anymore. It's less of his club now. He doesn't want to have to step back in and start allowing people to make decisions. And I think that's been partly the case of the wheels turning even slower than before. But anybody thinking that they're holding off this deal and that deal to do when the deal's completed, it isn't at that stage. The takeover isn't at the stage where people are sitting with the news that it's done. So anybody on social media that tells you out there, the deal's done, it's waiting for X date in June, X date in July, it's just not true in my understanding and the knowledge that I have. And I think Steve would almost certainly back that up.
Yeah, I would do. Yeah, 100%. Craig says, thanks for putting the shows on. Thank you very much. He says, Liam, what's made the budget supposed to have risen from 12 million to 50 million in a week?
Look, Craig, it frustrated me this over the weekend, but this 50 million thing, and even the 12 million thing. I've said it on here before, and I'll say it again that Newcastle United will not be revealing to anybody what their budget is this summer. There will be ballpark figures, but with Newcastle United, it's my understanding there isn't a strict budget. That's my understanding of it. And like I say, Craig, all you can do is just watch out for the story that I've written tomorrow, and there's a little bit more explanations to what I mean in there.
Yeah, okay. Tom Dixon saying, give Liam a quiz tonight. No, that's loaded, mate. Great stuff to do. We don't copy other people's work. We're very original on here, so go and see Daz and the boys over there. But give it a watch. It was a good show last night. I did tune in. Always good to see the lads putting the show on. And in a couple of weeks' time, I'm having a Friday night off because I've got my documentary coming out. I'll be in London, and the Fab Four will be hosted by Daz from Loaded. So there's an exclusive for you tonight. Daz has agreed to come on and do a live because this Friday the Fab Four will be pre-recorded because we're all out watching the Scotland game. And of course, I've got my Newcastle documentary launch as well. So this week's Fab Four is a pre-record, but the following week on the 25th, we'll see Daz take my seat and try and control Steve Hasty, Mitch, and Keith Patterson. Good luck with that, Daz. Good chance for him to promote the show as well, which I'm sure he will do. Lots of people asking about the fixtures. So we'll go with Colin Wilson now because we've answered the fixtures one already. Do you think we will look to offload Joe Linton to scrape up a bit of money for the kitty? It's a question which was asked to me and Holly last night as well. It was asked slightly differently. Would we offload? We both said we probably would. What do you think? Is that an option?
I don't think it's not something I'd heard, Colin, not at all. No, I think Joe Linton's a part of the squad, and I think he added some value to the squad towards the back end of last season. I think that's been reflected in the mindset of the coaching staff as well.
Well, he added something in the sense that he wasn't completely ranked useless like he was the season before, but in the grand scheme of things, if the takeover goes through, he can't stay. He cannot stay. But I agree. If we're under Bruce and Ashley, we're stuck with him, aren't we? We're stuck. We're not going to try and offload him.
Yeah, I don't want to break my own story for tomorrow, but I'm not seeing a transfer revolution at Newcastle United this summer.
No.
So what I'm thinking is, I think what they'll try and do is add some quality. If they can add a little bit of quality, then I think they will. I don't think you'll see a load of players going out the door, and I don't think you'll see an absolute load of players coming in. But obviously things can change. That one there, I don't think so. No, I don't see that one at all. It's not a player that'd been mentioned to me. Jack Wilshere. I'd be very surprised if Newcastle were to do that deal.
Yeah, it was a one that came up again last night. We asked the question, would people want him? I certainly wouldn't. He's not no good for me. Evening, lads. Refreshing to see a full capacity at the Hungry Portugal game tonight. You had to show proof that you had a vaccine. Thoughts on whether there's a full St James's Park next season? That's Tim Cairns. Good evening, Tim. Yeah, it is good to see. I've got to be honest. It shows you I didn't pay much attention to it until I got a message on Twitter to say, "Oh, it's great to see a full stadium," and I hadn't even clocked it. I had it on in the background, but yeah, it was good, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm actually on the same topic, so we'll cover both of these, Liam. rather knocked, and it doesn't bother me because I'm not going, but just knocked with the fact that it's not a full attendance for the Euro final at Wembley, but Boris has given the go-ahead for Wimbledon's finals day in July to both be maximum capacity on centre court. What's the difference? He's a tennis fan.
Look, I'm not about to start defending, but I suppose you're talking about vastly different capacities. That's all I would say about that.
I guess it's the size of the stadium, though. I mean, Wembley's a vast stadium. Centre court holds 15,000. Wembley can hold 100,000. So if you look at the capacities, then it's how does it work out? I'm not a mathematician. I failed maths horrendously. But 15,000 people all sitting together, I don't know. You know, the only difference is it's the numbers, I suppose, in the sense that, you know, 100,000 people all sitting there, and 50,000 of them have got the bug. They pass it on. It's a greater chance of spreading it, I guess. But I don't know. I just find it a bit strange.
But I think, look, again, I don't know the reason as to why. But what I would suggest is it not more about that amount of people travelling to one place, for example? There's a lot more to it than just sitting in the stadium. There is a lot more to it, and I think the bigger and bigger the capacity, then there are more and more potential problems. For example, the transport. You'll have 100,000 people travelling to one area. It is a big difference, and I'm not making excuses for it because I want to see it. Look, I'm at a point now where you start to see the amount of people and the percentages of the adult population in the UK who've had the vaccine, at least one. I've had one, during my second one in August. And you start to wonder, like, who are we protecting? The deaths have gone down. Who are we protecting? I don't want to get political here, but it's just my understanding of it. I'm kind of over it all now. And I think there's a lot of people out there who probably feel the same. And you get to a point and say, you know, would I go if it was a full capacity Wembley to a final? Yes, I would. I wouldn't have any hesitations about going. By the same token, I quite like tennis as well. I've been to Wimbledon a couple of times, and I would quite happily go to that finals day as well. And I think there's a lot of people out there feel the same. And I understand the opposite side. I understand that we've got to still protect certain people, but I just look at the percentages of people who've had it and think, yes, I think they probably could have got a few more in at Wembley for those 3 games at the end of the tournament. And it's disappointing when you see other countries have got the full capacity. Others haven't, of course. I mean, it's all different. It's all relative. But look, I'm all for more people, and I think it's a positive. It is a positive. Ultimately, there's going to be 45,000 at the 3 games. I think that's a real positive. But yes, it could have been more. But I do also understand the idea that the 15 is a lot less than 45. It's a lot less than 90. So I can see why 15 may be allowed in and 90 would.
Yeah. Okay. Ron saying, is there any truth in the report that Mike Ashley has said his goodbyes to the staff? It's another one going the rounds today.
Not to my knowledge, you know. I don't think Mike Ashley would say bye. He might not even say bye to the staff anyway. It's so arm's length. It's so arm's length.
He might ring Lascelles, like he's got a good he's got a good rapport with Lascelles, hasn't he? Pizzagate and all that. Joe Walker says, any word on the contracts front, Liam?
There's a bit in the piece tomorrow, Joe, so I'll not spoil anything.
Can't say anything. He's embargoing himself. He's embargoing himself. Tonight. I remember the good old days when we used to get the exclusives up, Liam.
It's a tight summer. It's a tight summer.
Read the Shields Gazette, Joe. For God's sake, read the Shields Gazette. Sam Yates says, what date will we realistically hear any news on the status of the current ongoing legal proceedings?
Impossible to put a date, Sam. Absolutely impossible. What I would say is that I think probably with regards to CAT, the next time we'll hear anything about it is from CAT themselves. I think they'll probably put a statement out, but there's a lot of decision making process, a lot of legal wheels that need to continue turning before we get to that point. We might hear something tomorrow. We might hear something in 2 weeks. It is absolutely impossible to say. And what we do know with the arbitration, totally separate case, of course, is that we've got a date penciled in. And to be honest about this, penciled in for July. I've seen some people speculating it's the end of this month. I'm not sure of that. I'm just going to continue going off what I've seen as proof, and that was a date in July. So I'm going to stick to that with the arbitration. That the arbitration is in July. Look, other people might be right, and if it's sooner, And if the club are happy with it being sooner, then I'm happy with that too. And every day, well, the way I look at it is every day we get closer to some kind of decision. That's the only reason I try and look at it in person.
That's the way to look at it. Tom Lynch says, Liam, what's happened to Tom Allen? He was getting touted as a breakthrough player. What's happened to him? Have we released him?
No, he's still at the football club. He's still at the football club. I think he was involved in the 23s in the second half of the season, if I'm right. He had a loan spell as well. I don't think he's ever been touted as the next big thing. But he is a player who's got a little bit of ability and might push for some kind of place in the first team squad. But I don't think he's ever been the next big thing. I think a lot of people, when players come through Newcastle, build them up to be something that they're not. They're just young lads. Some of them will make it. Most of them won't make it. That's just the nature of the beast.
That's football.
It is. It's football, and they understand that as well. It can be disappointing for them as well. But look, I'm sure he's a lad who'll make a good career in football. Fingers crossed for him. It's at Newcastle United.
Yep, big shout out to our sponsor, Spider VPN, for all your internet security. Just Google Spider VPN. They can help protect everything on your computer, your passwords and everything. So give their lads a shout. They've been big supporters of the show. Looking forward to catching up with them on Friday night. And also a big shout out to skipsandbins.com, who will be sitting next to Gareth and the lads from Spider VPN. Give them a shout at skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. And I can see Sir Bobby is in the chat tonight, so say hello to him. Don't tell him to buzz off. And a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and to John at Jab Signature. First time visitor to the channel, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right hand corner, and that's it. You can subscribe to free. At the moment, we are still doing 7 shows a week and a few little extras to boot. Hit the thumbs up to like the video. It does do us a big favour, and it's free to do that as well. Click the share button, which shares it to your other social media, and drop into the comments. There's a lot of like-minded Newcastle fans in there swapping opinions, and always good to get your questions on screen as well. Also, log on to iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, etc. We're on all of your podcast providers. Just look for NUFC Matters. You can get all of our content on there. And don't forget, QTech have also set up our website, nufcmatters.com, where you can buy a vast array of T-shirts. And as you know, throughout the year, we do support the food bank. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk are still operational with their matchday bucket. And just for the Euros, it is a Come On England matchday bucket that we have this time round. So any donations you can make to the food bank, do it there, please. Every penny counts, especially during the summer when we can't do any matchday collections. So good shout and a good week coming up. As always, we have Retro Night tomorrow night, where I'm joined by George Mitchell, Neil Mitchell, Stu Penman, Steve Hasty and Steve Wilkinson, and we will be looking at matches gone by with Newcastle United and Charlton Athletic. And as always, the lads will have to guess the celebrities, the Charlton fans who are celebrities, and pick the players up as well who I put on screen who played for both teams, and then get a match day 11 out of that. So it's always a good show, something a bit different, gets us away from the talk of takeovers, etc. Always a good night on a Wednesday. Thursday night, it's me, Supermac, and John Gibson chewing the fat over the Euros and Newcastle. And then, of course, it is the Fab Four on Friday. And a little special show coming up on Saturday. I had a chat with Vaz Blackwood, the actor who you'll probably recognise best from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. He's quite prolific on Twitter, has some pretty controversial views, it has to be said. That was a cracking hour. That will go up on Saturday. And we have a special surprise. We have somebody, a former Newcastle player, one of the entertainers, who's never been on the show, will be coming on Sunday. So I will keep you on tenterhooks with that one. But looking forward to recording that tomorrow.
Any clues?
No clues. No clues. It's embargoed. You can't. I'm not going to tell you. It's going to be in the Shields Gazette. Probably on Saturday. I've sorted it with Miles, who are the journalist who tells us things. Mark Cooper says, "Hi Liam, is it true that Arsenal are looking for a replacement for Willick and we have been quoted 20 to 25 million pound for him?"
Well, that's the ballpark figure that's been doing the rounds. I don't think they're looking for a replacement for Joe Willick. I think they're just looking for an attacking midfielder. And I'm not 100% certain that Joe Willick fits into their system. I've said it on here before. Joe Willick is a good Premier League performer. But is he a strong enough performer to hold his place in an Arsenal side wanting to get from 9 to 4? I don't think he probably is. And what I would say is that Arsenal have known the player for a lot longer than anybody bar his family. They've had him there since he was about 5 years old at the academy. And they'll know whether they want to keep him. I think he's overperformed, and I think he's because of his amazing performance at the back end of last season, has made them reconsider his future, because I was led to believe that his future probably lay away from Arsenal when he signed for Newcastle, and it would have to overperform to even get back in the conversation. And credit to the lad, he did do that. But 20 to 25 million looks about right. And I do think Arsenal are looking for attacking midfielders. Obviously, they missed out on the lad who went to Aston Villa, who was at Norwich, who's a fantastic player, by the way. When Norwich were last in the Premier League, he tore Newcastle to bits, Bundia, the Argentinian lad. And I think they are in the lookout for another. Whether that's Joe Willick to walk straight back in, I've got big question marks. But the lad proved a lot of people wrong with his back end of the season, and who's betting against him to go and do the same again when he goes back to training with Arsenal in a couple of weeks' time?
Okay, Chad Leach says, "In your opinion, should the BN Champions League rights deal be looked at? Surely the president of BN, being part of the UEFA board and chairman, is a conflict of interest and anti-competitive."
Good question, Chad. I don't know the detail of it all, but it's not a good look, is it? It's not a good look that the guy's on the board of both, and he's basically brought his own company in. I mean, if that was to happen in any other line of work, you'd start asking question marks. There'd be question marks about it. So yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of that deal. Nor do I really believe it's massively relevant in Newcastle United. But it doesn't look good. It's certainly not a good look for UEFA, and it's certainly not a good look for BN Sports.
No, definitely not. Darren Cowan says, "Do you expect full crowds come the start of the season, or do you think Boris will delay again?"
I haven't got any inside info on that, Darren. But what I would say is that there hasn't been any guidance to Premier League clubs at present as to what's going to happen for the start of the season. They're playing the waiting game as much as we are to see whether restrictions are applicable to them. Certain changes and restrictions are applicable. So yeah, I've got grave doubts. Just my personal opinion, I've got grave doubts whether we'll see classic crowds at football stadiums for mid-August. Will be the first week of the season. I've got grave doubts, but I hope I'm proved wrong.
Yeah, Alan White's just saying, "Any idea if anything actually happened on Friday? I thought that was the date the Premier League had to respond."
It was, Alan. It was the date they had to respond. And I'm led to believe that, look, it was said to me a few days ago that they did. They did respond. That tends to be the rumour that's doing the rounds at the moment. So, look, we'll have to wait and see. It's not a case of they were never going to put a statement out saying they've responded. Nobody was going to do that. This complex legal argument, something that will have to be poured over by the judge in the case. And like I say, best thing you can do is just keep your eyes peeled for a CAT statement, because I'd imagine there will be one at some point. But again, they've been pretty prompt throughout this process, but this is a complex situation. I couldn't give a timescale as to when these legal wheels are going to be ready to give out a statement. So just keep your eyes peeled.
Jeff says, "What did you make of the NUFC shop closures? Further evidence of Ashley's disengagement?"
Possibly, but I think it's also part of this new sign-up deal that they've got with Pastore. So again, it's another one, Jeff, that we'll probably just have to wait and see. I wish I could give more of an answer on that, but it's really difficult getting answers out of the football club at the moment, because there's a lot of things still up in the air. And yeah, like you say, that is a lot of it is down to Ashley's disinterest, but their eyes are elsewhere. They want this club. They want this football club sold. They don't want to have to deal with these issues and make these announcements. And it is business as usual at Newcastle United, or so we're told. But it's just a strange summer. Like I say, I've never known a club act in the way that they are at the moment. Although Newcastle United do have a habit of this kind of thing, I've never known there to be so many question marks. Look, we're only 2.5 weeks away from the players returning. 5th of July, the players are returning to training, and we haven't even been told whether who's been let go and who hasn't officially from the football club. That's quite an incredible position to find yourselves in. We don't know who's going to be making the kit. A lot of football clubs wear the new season's kit on the last day of the season. I'm not sure that's always the case when you're changing over suppliers. It's normally the same supplier uses a marketing tool to get people to buy the kits, but Newcastle United are really late. There's not many clubs out there who haven't already announced what their kit's going to be for next season. We don't even know officially who's going to be making it.
Bizarre. Lee Taylor says, is there any truth in the rumour Newcastle are going to offer Arsenal 12 million for Joe Willick?
I've never heard those numbers mentioned. Not at all.
Okay, Tom's asking what your thoughts are on the potential of Andy Carroll being offered a new deal. I mean, we were all waving him goodbye, but then the story came out, in between last week's show and this week's show that potentially he might get offered a new deal. Surely that's, crazy.
Well, I wouldn't do it personally, but it doesn't surprise us. Andy Carroll's relationship with the football club goes. Careful what I say here. It isn't just a football thing. There are connections, which I can't really go into detail about. But I think if Andy Carroll wants to stay at Newcastle United, then he'll be staying here next season. That's as carefully as I can put it.
John B says, do you think ASM will stay for the whole of next season without a takeover happening anytime soon?
Yeah, I think he will. Yeah, I think it would take a mega offer for Alan St. Maximin to be leaving this summer, and I just don't believe that mega offer will arrive.
So Bobby says it's snobby football fans are mental and tennis fans are an orderly sort. So goes the thinking of the PM, just referring to what I was saying earlier on. RE says, will Lee Charnley get a lump sum if the takeover goes through? I'm not sure what the lump sum would be. He might get a payoff. I'm not sure he'd be on a vast amount of money anyway. The rumour was that he was the least paid, chief executive of the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm not sure he still is, but there was a period where he was by far the lowest paid managing director or whatever it may be in the Premier League, and I don't think he'd be due a lump. There's no reason why he would. What's he done for the deal? I don't get how he's going to be rewarded for a deal going through, where effectively he's going to be handing over the keys and the alarm codes, as seems to be said around circles at the moment.
One day this might be a genuine question, Liam, but any update on Mbappe yet?
I'm not sure how he's doing in Antoine Griezmann's Football Manager game. I'm not sure if he scored the goals to make up that 6-point gap to Manchester United at Christmas, but we'll have to wait and see.
Tom Dixon says, do you think Newcastle might cash in on Carl Darlow? And what's your thoughts on Jetron Willems getting back to fitness?
Loads of questions from you tonight, Tom. Good stuff. Yeah, I think they will. I think there's an opportunity there that they might cash in on Carl Darlow. Jethro Willems is an interesting one. It's all dependent, I'm led to believe, on Matt Ritchie. If Matt Ritchie leaves, I think Jethro Willems might happen if they can get workarounds in this new work permit deal.
Okay, Nathan Thomas says it could be tomorrow. You've done it now, Liam. It'll be trending on Twitter before you know it.
It'll be a news. I'll look at news now tomorrow, and it'll be like some kind of takeover headline. Liam Kennedy says, "Oh God, I can see it coming now."
Yeah, Jimmy Rizzo, good evening. Anybody who hasn't watched Jimmy's podcast, it's really, really good. Give it a watch. It's a lot more down the lines of some of the other stuff that I put on this channel, but it's well worth a watch. Big shout out to Jimmy. Nice to see you watching, mate. First signing after the takeover should be Phil Foden. The kid is going to be world class. I would agree. And hey, never say never. You never know. Nathan says there was a report the other week about Weghorst from Wolfsburg. Any traction in that, Liam? Supposedly a few Premier League clubs sniffing about.
It wasn't a name I'd heard mentioned till it was mentioned. And what I would say about that is the fees involved in that deal look high. They look high for Newcastle United this summer. But again, like I say, I wouldn't rule anything in and I wouldn't rule anything out. And like I say, this transfer piece that I'm building up beyond belief for tomorrow, will have bits about that. Just saying that I wouldn't rule anything out this summer, to be honest.
Okay, Mike Stewart says, were you guys surprised after Eriksen's collapse, the game being resumed the same evening? I covered this last night on the show with Holly. What was your take on the game being played? I just genuinely felt, I didn't understand it. I just thought they would go for a different day. I don't understand how the players could be mentally right to play that game, knowing that he would, that their mate, captain, player, teammate was going off to hospital,
Yeah, well, it's arguable, but I'm not sure they were mentally right. You could see that anybody who's seen the game, I didn't watch the game live, but I've seen it since. Anybody who watched the game live will see that Denmark were much the better side till what happened, which was tragic. Luckily, the lad's okay. One of the success stories of the tournament so far, never mind the football, has been effective saving of his life on that football pitch. Do I think it should have been played that night? I think there could have been some compassion shown by the governing bodies who pushed for it to be done either that night or I think it was by 12 o'clock the next day. I think that was a little bit unfair in such circumstances, because it was quite an emotional, quite a traumatic, shock-inducing thing for a lot of those players who'll be mates, who have seen one of their mates fall and seen his life saved on the football pitch. I think it was a bit much to ask him to play. Look, they were given assurances from him himself, saying, "Go on, lads, go and play." But I still think it was unfair. I think it could have been kicked. It could have been kicked into touch and said, "Look, we'll move the fixtures around a bit." And I don't think anybody involved in that would have complained. I don't think anybody else involved in the group would have complained. I don't think Finland would have been that. So, yeah, I think it was a little bit. I think they could have done more. I think it was a bit unfair asking them to play that night or the next day.
Yeah, I've got to say a big shout out to Peter Beardsley as well. I know Peter regularly watches the show, and it was nice to bump into him and Kenny Wharton on the quayside today, taking a leisurely walk.
Has he broken his arm? Did he have a sling?
He's done his collarbone. Yeah, done his collarbone in the garden. He didn't elaborate on it, and certainly wasn't playing football. But good to see him today, and great to see Kenny Wharton as well. Both looking well. Kenny was with his father-in-law, but it was a nice day for a walk. I also bumped into Rachel Sweeney, who was on the Millennium Bridge working for the new news channel, GB News. So it was good to see you. It was one of those days where you just bump into everybody, and ended up getting in the house an hour later than I was expecting to. But yeah, nice to see Peter, if he's watching. Good evening, mate.
Get well soon.
Best player of all time for me in a black and white shirt. Blue Moon Boy 1956 says, Liam, who will win the Euros? It's in the Shields Gazette tomorrow night, and he's not telling you.
I'll maybe give this one away.
Oh, go on.
So of all the teams I've seen so far, I can only judge what I've seen so far. I still think probably, and we'll know more after tonight, but I think France are everybody's favourite, and they're favourite for a reason, because their attacking lineup is scarily good, and they've got a really, really good squad. I watched the first half before we came on here. I watched the first half of Portugal. I don't know what's gone on since, but they were really labouring against a very, very limited Hungary side. So you'd have to doubt whether they, despite having a lot of good players, how much the COVID impact has had on their squad and the build-up and things like that. I was really impressed by England, but I don't believe England will win it. I think they'll go okay in the tournament. I really enjoyed the Netherlands game the other night. It was probably one of the best games I've seen, just the way that toed and froed at the end of the game. But I can't really see much past France, but I have been impressed by Italy on the first day. They weren't tested massively, and Belgium won in an absolute canter.
Belgium still for me, big threat, yeah. Big threat. But a lot of people going for France, Liam. A lot of people going for France.
I think France. Look, an unknown quantity write Germany off the apparel. That haven't got the squad. They haven't got the levels of quality that they maybe had in years gone by. But I think we'll know a lot after tonight as to which way things are going to go. But I'm sticking with France. I love Belgium's squad, but I'm thinking France. France have got the overall quality from front to back. Belgium have got question marks about the defensive line, but so have a lot of teams. England's weakness is defensive, and it makes for a good tournament. I think we're going to have some really, really exciting games this year.
Yeah, I've just seen Mark Cooper say you didn't see Harrison Ford. No, I did try. I did try on Friday. I go out walking with either my mate Sarah or my mate Dave, and I've got to be honest, I was trying to like hang fire and bump into Harrison Ford on Friday, but it didn't work out. Just as well. He, allegedly lost his temper with people telling him to keep their distance. So probably not the best day to go, and people would have been blaming me as well for him leaving Newcastle. So good job I didn't see him.
You're on first name. You're on first name terms with the hotel, aren't you? The manager at the front door and
I know the paparazzi guy. I got a heads up off him. We've done each other a few favors over the years, and that's how I knew the crack. Believe it or not, well, you can't believe it. John Shearer and all the autograph hunters knew exactly where he was and what time he was there, and I felt a bit sorry for them because they were stood outside the hotel from 3:30 in the morning through till 6:30 the next night, and they never got anything signed. So absolutely, I mean, it was warm, but I mean, they didn't sleep anywhere. They were literally standing outside with their bags and their pens. I mean, what on earth were we talking about for that length of time? God knows. But anyway, Billy Gaddis says, Newcastle have a young lad on loan at Hartlepool, doing well by all accounts. Do you agree with me? It could be handy for loans if they win promotion. I mean, it's good to build up the relationship with these kind of teams. I've always said Newcastle should build up a better relationship with Gateshead. We used to do it under Sir John Hall, but that's gone by the by now.
Yeah, well, Hartlepool are a fantastic result for them at the weekend. They're one game away from being back where they belong, back in the Football League. And I think that's a good level to send players. It's a place you can then keep an eye on them as well because they're only sort of a few miles down the road. Good club as well. Good club. I covered Hartlepool for about 2-3 years and different guys before I did Newcastle and all the best of luck. Lewis Cass is the player. That's the name of the player that's currently on loan. I think he's got a lot to learn. I would question whether he's going to come back to Newcastle and have an impact, but it can't harm these lads going out. And like I said earlier about when referring to Matty Longstaff, Freddie Woodman, Elliot Anderson, it cannot harm these lads at a young age to go out and learn men's football, get stuck in. 23's football, they're learning nothing at that level. So it's good to see Newcastle have sent some lads out. Kellen Watts was out, and I know he's got a lot to learn as well, but he was at League 1 level. And I think that's probably going to be the next step for some of these lads. Is just to get League 1 experience, Championship experience, and then maybe in a couple of years' time can come back and have an impact at their own club.
Okay, Hamza Chowdhury says Jeff.
Yeah, there's interest there. There's definitely interest there. I'm not sure whether it's a deal that can get done this summer, but definite interest.
2-0 to Portugal, by the way. People in the chat just updating it. Gary Milligan likes to mix it up, doesn't he? What's your stand on quantum physics, Liam?
Don't understand it, Gary. You'll have to ask someone else.
Well, there we go. That's a short answer. Can you spell it? I'm going to take it off the screen. Just catching up with the questions. Yeah, my first ever game at St James's Park was Kenny Wharton's testimonial. I was there. Yeah, I remember that night. It was a cold night from what I can remember. Life Goals says, on a parallel podcast, Peter Beardsley is saying, I saw Steve Wraith in the street the other day. Absolutely classic. Kirk says, we should build up great relationships with all of our smaller region clubs. Gateshead, Middlesbrough, South Shields, Hartlepool, Sunderland, Blythe, good little feeder clubs. I mean, to be honest, this is what Rafa was doing. This is what Rafa was doing with like a lot of the boys' clubs. I know you're laughing because of the Sunderland thing. But he was trying to get me. I mean, I went through the process, me and a couple of other people, going out to visit all of the clubs like Redheath and Walls End Boys Club, etc. And Rafa's idea was to build up the relationships with the boys' clubs and take it from there to there, and have that that connection. That's what all good clubs do. Man United did it under Ferguson. Liverpool did it under Shankly. Man United did it under Matt Busby. You know what I mean? And that's the way to do it. You have to, without sounding like Mr. Punch, that is the way to do it. And it's not rocket science. Building up that relationship with the local boys' clubs, bringing the best of the young talent through, nurturing them, getting them to that level, and then the ones that make it. I mean, I had this conversation with somebody on the Quayside today, actually. We're obviously watching a plethora of these documentaries on Sky Documentaries. And I watched The United Way, about Man United, which was good, apart from being called The United Way. There's only one United, and it's us. but the basis of the program was pretty good, you know. And I get it. Eric Cantona does the commentary on it, but it was that's the way you need to do it. It's, you know, build up the youngsters and go from there. And Newcastle's class of '92 was every bit as good as Man United's class of '92. You know, we had Alan Thompson, Steve Howie, Robbie Elliott, Lee Clark, Alan Thompson, Steve Watson. That was our class of '92. All came through at the same time as their class of '92. And we gave them a good run for the money. We should have won the league. We didn't. So, you know, it's what could have been. Had we won the league that season, we could have gone on to be, you know, build on that and go on. But it's you know, it's interesting. But I agree with what Kirk's saying.
There shouldn't be any lads kicking footballs at youth clubs, your Wars End Boys Club, North Shields, wherever they may turn up. There shouldn't be any lads kicking balls in this area who aren't on Newcastle United's radar and don't end up at Newcastle United. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be allowed to happen on anybody's watch. But the big problem that Newcastle United have is the nurture bit that you said. You said a number of different stages. The nurture bit is problematic. Newcastle United traditionally is miles behind the likes of Sunderland and Middlesbrough in nurturing footballers to get them to a certain level. And that's not for want of saying that there's terrible coaches at Newcastle. I'm not saying that at all. There's a lot of good coaches working at that football club. There just isn't the will and the want to, and there hasn't been for a long time. Let's not kid ourselves. We had great periods after that. When you talk about that Newcastle's own '92, class of '92, Newcastle United threw the youth team and the reserve team, etc., out the window after that. And Newcastle United has never really recovered from that. They've never had a crop of players. And some of these players have gone to Middlesbrough, they've gone to Sunderland, they've gone to Manchester United, they've gone elsewhere around the country, West Ham, they've gone to places. And Newcastle have lost that forever. They need somebody to come in and take youth football seriously, take the nurturing of football seriously. And this is a long-term project. It's something that isn't going to happen overnight. It will take 20 years to come to fruition. But I don't like the idea. There shouldn't be lads who are from this area kicking a ball in this area who turn up with other football clubs, having not been at Newcastle United first. It's just a travesty that these players fall through the net as they have over the last 25, 30 years on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I would agree. Sir Bobby says, if Sir Bobby had taken the reins straight after Keegan, I think we would have dominated English football for most of the decade. Not getting the arguments from me.
That was the right time, wasn't it? If he could have come straight after Keegan, then and started that job immediately, then things could have been so different. But how many sliding doors moments do we have as Newcastle United fans? And how many what ifs? I mean, it's all fingers crossed. I always hope there's going to be a better tomorrow, and that's the one thing that I never lose. That I have that faith that we will win something in one day. We will. I'm certain.
T-Tank says we didn't win the league because we weren't good enough. I still say we didn't win the league because we didn't beat Man United, not because we weren't good enough. I mean, they were
good enough to win a league. They were good enough. That squad was good enough.
People always say, you know, we conceded too many goals, yet we conceded less than Man United that season, and that defence was pretty. That defence was pretty good, pretty solid.
It's a myth, isn't it, Steve? It's a myth about the defensive stuff. Is an absolute myth when you look at the statistics. They didn't concede goals. They just weren't as consistent as Manchester United in the second half of the season. Anywhere near as consistent as it should have been.
Cantona 1-0 was the story. I'm actually going to watch it. I've managed to transfer me video onto DVD now, because you can't get a DVD of that season. Well, I couldn't anyway. So I've managed to get it. I've got a version of it, so I'm going to sit and watch it. I'm looking forward to watching that, because you get into that flow of watching documentaries, don't you? I tell you what was really good, the Howard's Way one, the Everton one. Don't know whether you've seen it, but try and find it on Sky. Try and get it on Sky Documentaries. It'll get shown again. But absolutely brilliant. And again, that was about that great era of Everton in the 80s, when they won the European Cup and they won the league, etc. So that was pretty good. Kirk says, this goes back to the 1960s. We lost Armstrong to Arsenal. We lost Colin Bell. We lost Brian Robson, Steve Bruce, Waddle fell to the non-league. So, good point. Son of THC says, I remember hearing as a kid, basically scouts looking in local papers to see who was winning trophies and go there rather than going round putting work in, looking at everyone, as you say. Is it true? Who knows? And Mark Cooper says, hey, so Bobby, you should make some Bobby pins. They would sell well. So there's an idea for you. Good idea. Sir Bobby's becoming quite popular. Dalglish did not want to win anything with Keegan's players. Simple. Sir Bobby would have tinkered with the team, which again is a good point. Toby just says, Liam, give me some good news. What's happening on the takeover front? He's clearly just tuned in.
Well, obviously, we've discussed it earlier, Toby. Good question, but we're all just playing exactly the same waiting game. Everybody's waiting to see what's happening. The legal wheels keep turning. I'm sorry if I keep going over cliches, but that's just where we're at. I think the next thing we'll hear will probably be with regards to the cat case. I think there might be some kind of announcement, but I couldn't give a time scale on that. And as I said previously, I'll repeat that there's a lot of people talking about the arbitration being the 28th of June. The only facts that I've seen and knowledge that I've got is that it's July. So I think we'll have arbitration at some date in July. And that is meant to be a fast-track arbitration. It's expedited, so it won't take forever. That's why I'm sort of sitting here quite comfortable in the fact now that I believe we're edging closer day by day to a decision. Or at least decisions on the legal actions. And then from there, decisions on the actual deal itself can take place.
Tom wants to know, is there any news on Aya from Celtic?
No, look, Newcastle United is having a really quiet month, to be honest, on the transfer front. So we're just
because there's nobody there.
No, I know we're all on holiday or whatever it may be. So I think things will start heating up probably over the next couple of weeks. It's always the same. It's always the same with the Euros or World Cup, that things do slow down for a little period. But I would imagine in the next few weeks you'll start to see things ramping up a little bit.
There's Daz, and you'd be hanging around somewhere. He says the legal wheels keep on turning. That's a new one. Noted. So you're the king of cliches.
He's got a big list of them, and he brought a few of them out last night. If anyone gets a chance to watch it.
Yeah, well worth a watch. Stu says it's lifting. We've been waiting over a year, and court action hasn't even started yet. Darren reckons that Peter Schmeichel won it for Man United. He was amazing, he said, versus Newcastle. Yeah, it was a fantastic game. You know, when Cantona got the goal and Schmeichel saved everything that was thrown at him. Colin says, did Keith not want the cat case first?
You'll have to ask Keith on what his thoughts were on that. But I know he has talked on here on NUFC Matters about wishing that his case had been taken on much sooner. Because we could have been in a totally different place by now, but that's the way things don't always go the way you want them to, and I would always prepare everybody out there for that. There's no guarantee this deal will go through. There's nothing sure or certain about it. What should tell you that is the last 18 months. But am I hopeful that we will get a brighter future? Yes, I am.
Yeah, Dino Beardsley did score an overhead versus Charlton, and that will definitely feature, I think. There's some great players who played for Charlton and Newcastle, by the way. Well worth a watch, the Retro Show tomorrow night, 6 until 7. Gary says, I've tagged you both, Steve and Liam, on Twitter. According to the Chronicle, whether it's copy and paste or just a rumour, Mike Ashley is very confident of the takeover. Yeah, I read that, Gary, today. Lee Ryder wrote the article, I think it was. And look, again, it's a silly season. People will say what they think people want to hear, and wasn't much substance in it. There's no quotes from anybody. It's really just a rehash of other stuff, and that's not a criticism of Lee. Lee has to fill 3 pages in the Chronicle every day of Newcastle United stuff, whether there's anything to say or not. Usually, as Liam keeps telling everybody, there isn't a great deal to say. There's nobody there. So try not to give Lee Ryder too much of a hard time, because he has got a tough job, but there's nothing being said. Nobody's given any indication of whether it's coming or not coming. And, we'll all wake up one morning and it'll either be done or it'll be off. That's the best way to describe it. Thanks to everybody saying it's a great show. Is there anyone from Newcastle watching players from Euro 2020? We'll give Tom Dixon the last question.
Yes, there are. As every club in the Premier League, any club worth a salt has got representatives at a lot of the games at Euro 2020.
Good stuff. Quick plug, Liam. Where can people find you?
A little look down here at Liam J Kennedy 23. Give us a follow on Twitter if you like what I do on here. We work on a subscription system at Shields Gazette, so I think it's only about a pound or two for a couple of months subscription. So if you like the kind of stuff, the analysis, the chat, the opinion on here, then you'll get loads more of that, and a whole lot more if you subscribe to the Shields Gazette.
Yep. Okay, great stuff, mate. Good to see you, and we will see you again next Tuesday. Take care, Liam, mate.
See you later.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look